Welcome to the TABC Talk series. My name is Retta Mosley. I'm Chief Information Officer for TABC. Joining me later today will be Laurie Sanchez. She is our PMO manager and she is the lead PM on the Ames project. And Carrie Daniele, she is our IT Enterprise Strategies Manager. Her team is in charge of the content that you will be seeing during the virtual sessions that are part of the onboarding series. One thing that I do ask of everyone, please mute your mics and please turn off your video during the actual presentation. We will be doing the questions at the end, so please put in your questions in the chat. If you do have one that you want to ask in person, please wait till the end and then raise your hand to let us know that that's how you want to ask it. But again, please mute yourself, video and audio during the presentation. So let's get started. So we are going to cover 10 topics today. They're listed on the screen for you. And I want to go over a couple of things. One, AIMS stands for Alcohol Industry Management System. And throughout the presentation, if I say license or licensee, it is all inclusive to licensing, permitting, and certificates. And again, submit your questions throughout. Lauren, I don't know why I keep calling you Lauren all of a sudden, my apologies. Laurie and Carrie will be taking care of the moderation for it, and we'll get to those at the end. So let's start first with what is AIMS. AIMS is our new online software that's going to allow TABC and its industry partners to work together in a more coordinated effort that will be mutually beneficial for all of us. And it goes live September 1, 2021. It's designed to make it easier for you to interact with TABC and to minimize lag times that you may have experienced in the past that takes away from the time that you need to spend operating your business. From TABC staff side, it's designed to minimize the time and effort that the staff has to spend on manual processes. A great example is the input of an application data that maybe you send in by paper, then we have to sit and type it in. That takes a lot of time and effort, and that will be automated when you actually fill it in online for us. So I'm going to do a brief overview of what's included in your AIMS account. All of this information, the reason I'm just doing it at a high level today is what's going to be included for you in the virtual educational events, and we will be showing you how to use this functionality. But just a quick list, you'll be able to view critical information about your existing business entity. You'll be able to view and print your licenses, permits, certificates, approvals linked to your business entity, etc. TABC is no longer going to print and mail you your license. You will do that, like I said, online. One thing that I do want to make a note of here is we have moved all of what we call your mission critical data. We will be moving it from our old system into AIMS right before go live. And it will be structured under the new structure that is effective September 1st, and it will have new license numbers. So we are working through the logistics right now of how to get the new license numbers to you so that it's an easy flow for you as you come into AIMS. So please know that you'll be seeing it in a much different way, and we're going to do everything we can to make sure you're prepared ahead of time with that license number or numbers. We just will have to work our way through that. Ability to set up additional users, and this does include when you come in as the owner and you claim your business, you're able to add other users, and that includes licensing services. So know that you can do that. You have the ability to apply and pay for original applications. You can change locations or officers with an application or submit a change, and subordinate authority applications. You also will have the ability to submit renewal applications, but that's beginning in September. So if you have a September license, you cannot apply for it early in August. So just know that you will have to wait until AIMS is up to work on your September renewals. You can apply and pay for product registration that used to be known as label approvals. And you'll be able to complete and submit excise tax reports and payments. One thing I want to point out here, if you pay in TextNet, you will continue to pay in TextNet. What you will have to do is get your TextNet confirmation number and then put it into Ames. And one of the last things that we'll go over with you in the actual event is your dashboard and the notifications that you will be receiving. You'll be able to see if you have expiration dates, when they are. If you're in the middle of a pending process, you will be notified about missing documents. We will email you from the system, but we also will post these things to your dashboard. So let's go ahead and get into the topic of today, now that you have that background, on what is the Ames onboarding process. It's threefold. It's a way to teach you how to set up your account online. We're going to teach you how to claim your business. And then there is a delay at that point when it comes into TABC staff. They will review what you have claimed and what you've put in as your business setup. And then once approved, you will be able to then log in and use your Ames account. And we're doing this, the type of process is a phased process. We're doing this because we did not want to inundate the system with a lot of users hitting it at one time without a plan in place. That would be overwhelming to the system. It would be overwhelming to staff. And someone yesterday likened it to if we all tried to renew our driver's license at one time online. It's better to do it over a phased period. But one thing to note is if you have multiple licenses, we have you in an onboarding group based on your earliest expiration date, and you only have to onboard once, even though you may have multiple licenses. So it starts in August of 2021, and it will run through July of 2022. This gives us the opportunity to pick up all expirations that start in September of 21 and run through August of 22. We will be supporting you during this process. We've put together a team, and we'll talk about it in a little bit more detail later, but you will be supported through email messaging, through Constant Contact, our industry briefs. You will be able to access, in fact, you currently are on our TABC website. And then we will have the virtual educational events that we'll talk about more in a moment. Those will be recorded and stored online. So if you want to reference them at a later time, you can do so. And then again, we will have an Ames support team that will be dedicated over this first year to helping you. On the website, I will reference it many times. It's tabc.texas.gov/2021. So let's talk about the onboarding process and how it works. And we're going to focus first on group one. This is our largest group, and it will cover, we'll have group 1A and group 1B. Group 1A is going to be all manufacturers, distributors, and brew pubs, and all other licenses that expire in the months of September or October from Tier 3. This is regardless of the year. So if you have one that's September of 22, you still will be in group 1, and you will go through the process in just another month or two. In July is when the first onboarding instruction email will go out to groups 1A and B. We will give you the dates and time for the virtual sessions. We will be holding these in Microsoft Teams because we are able to bring in up to 10,000 people. So we do not expect that many in any given group, but we do expect to have several thousand. So we are using Microsoft Teams. If you're not familiar with it, it is a free download from Microsoft. Just go to their site. You can view it on the browser or download it to your computer. The virtual educational events will be in August. We have tentative dates of the 17th and 19th. Those are not confirmed yet, but we will be doing it close to that time. Then in September, after Ames is live, you'll be able to come in and actually do the onboarding process we just talked about. You'll be able to set up your account. You'll be able to claim your business, and then once approved, you'll be able to start working on your data inside the system. For the manufacturers, distributors, and brew pubs, anybody that files an excise tax, your September report will be filed as normal for right now. It is your October report that you will have to do in Ames. So be sure and do your report in September for August activity as normal. And then in October, be prepared to do it online, and you can make your payments online. So the other groups will be tier 3s, and we will do those again based on your earliest expiration date, starting with the month of November. So your schedule, I'm just going to use group 2 as an example. You will get your onboarding email notification in August. You will attend the educational event in September. We are targeting the 3rd Thursday of each month, but again, that will be verified in the email that you receive in August. And then once you're in, which would be in October, you will then be able to onboard and go through the process. And then it just rolls forward from that. The people who expire in December will be next, and we will work our way all the way through August of 2022. On the screen, we have provided you a chart that you can download with the PDF handout that will be available for the viewers of this TABC Talks. And just find in that second column where it says license expires, find the month of your earliest expiration and follow the line across. You'll see when you will receive the first communication, you will see the month that you will attend your educational event, and then you will see the month that you do your onboarding. As with all rules and procedures, there's always exceptions and some general comments that I'd like to make here. First of all, we are doing the phased approach for people who are existing license holders. If you come in September and you need to file an original, you may do so. Certainly contact our support team to help you know how to set up an account and log in. You will not be claiming a business if you're new, but you will be able to do that. Same thing for current license holders. If you have business to do with TABC, ahead of when we have you scheduled to do your onboarding, please contact us and let us help you get either into an earlier group or help you one-on-one so that we can help you move along getting your business set up in Ames the way you need to do your business the way you need to. One thing to keep in mind, all future activity, September 1 and forward, must take place in Ames. If you choose to do paper, and we'll talk about this again later, that is your choice. We discourage it because it makes it a longer process for you, because it comes in as a manual process and has to be worked as a manual process. So we do encourage you to use Ames, and I think you'll notice that it's pretty easy to use once you get in there. We've tried very hard to make it that way. So let's talk about your virtual educational events. So the overview and the first 2 sections will be for every group 1 through 11. The manufacturers, distributors, and brew pubs will have a section 3. So the Ames overview, if you haven't already seen it in any of the commission meetings that we've done or on our website, it's a 1 minute, 45-second quick overview of just the Ames system, and you can see kind of the look and feel of it. We'll have some introductory remarks from management, and then section 1 will be for the owners, the license holders. This is how to set up your Ames account and how to claim your business. And we will ask, because that belongs to your email address, so that is because you're the owner and the license holder, so it's designated to you. Anyone that you want to invite to come with you to these events, please do so. Once you get through section 1, if you want to hand it off to your employees who might be handling the more detailed work in Ames, you're welcome to do so. We encourage you to stay if you're interested in seeing all of it. We anticipate getting through the overview, sections 1 and 2, in about 35 minutes. That includes time for Q&A. Each line where you see a how-to, that's a video, and that's total of 5 minutes or less in each section. And we will stay online with you as long as we need to answer questions, but the planned format for all of the tier 3s is about 35 minutes. In the group with the manufacturers, distributors, and brew pubs, we will have the third section. We anticipate it adding about 15 or 20 minutes at the most onto that 35 minutes. And we'll talk about product registration and filing excise tax reports. So I mentioned earlier that we will have dedicated support. And we have a team of approximately 25 people who are already familiar with AIMS, and they are going to be especially knowledgeable in AIMS and the outward facing, basically what you see and how you function. They are going to be very adept in using that functionality. They have a dedicated email address, stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov. Stakeholder is singular. And we are coming up with, we have not decided yet on what phone number we will be using, but there will be a dedicated phone number as well. During normal business hours, you can contact this team and they will help you. If they can answer the question immediately, they will. If it's a technical problem, they will hand it off to IT. If it's a question about rules, the new fees, the new licensing structure, anything like that that you need a question answered while you're trying to get your business aligned in AIMS, we have subject matter experts throughout the entire agency who will be called upon as needed to answer your questions. And then, of course, we already have some AIMS resources online, again at tabc.texas.gov/2021. But we also will be adding in late August the videos that we will be using in the onboarding virtual events. And we also will have some user manuals, and it will be screenshots and steps, just written steps. If you don't want to watch a video, some people prefer one over the other. So now let's go into some helpful reminders, some things that we've already covered in the past, but I wanted to make sure we mention again. July 31st is the last day that you can submit an original application to be processed prior to September 1 of 2021. It's got to be a complete packet. That means that it has a complete application. There's nothing missing. You have received the TABC remittance notice, and you have included payment. All of that has to be received by TABC in person, or if you're mailing it, it has to be postmarked by July 31, 2021. Anything beyond that will not be worked as an application for the old system, and will be put off until AIMS, and then you'll have to resubmit it inside AIMS. If you have a September renewal, you will not be able to start the renewal process, 30 days early, especially if you have one in early September. You will need to wait until you're in AIMS. And then on the 30-day renewal, new rule, you will not be able to submit a renewal prior to 30 days of that expiration date. So please keep that in mind. When you go into AIMS, I was looking at it this morning, when you go into AIMS and you click on a license and identify it as a renewal action, if it's prior to that 30-day rule, you will not be able to go any further. So keep that in mind as well. Staying informed with us, we started doing informational emails in February based on AIMS, the technology changes, also on rule changes, fee changes, licensing structure changes. And then we're also housing that information on the tabc.texas.gov/2021 website. If you go to that main 2021 changes webpage, if you scroll down, you'll find a link to AIMS, and you'll also find a link to technology changes to give you more information. As we get questions and fill out frequently answered questions, we will provide those, continually updating that on the website as well. Helpful pointers, these are basically answers to some questions that we've received in the past, so I thought I would go ahead and cover them with you here. If you have a login to use Versa Online, it will not work in Ames. So that is why you're setting up a new account and using the new user ID and the password that you choose. The old system is going away and we are not bringing over any type of login information from that system to the new one. On the 2021 renewals that I mentioned earlier, because you cannot start 30 days out because we are changing systems, please know that TABC is going to provide appropriate considerations for you. We understand that you cannot do it necessarily within the 30 days, especially if it renews September 1st, 2nd, or 3rd. And we are going to work with you and help you get through that process. So don't worry about not having considerations from TABC. All of the temporary rules that are in place, they will expire November 1st at midnight. And I mentioned this earlier, let's talk about it again, paper applications. Absolutely, you can use the paper application process. We discourage you to do it because, again, it will take longer. I also, just from a technology perspective, encourage you to use Ames. We've worked very hard to make it step-by-step process. We've made it as user-friendly, I think, as it can be. I'm probably a little bit biased on that opinion there, but it is an easy system to use. You can use it on your smartphone, you can use it on a tablet, a laptop, or a desktop. So give it a try before you fill out the paperwork. So let's do a quick summary and then we'll go into questions. Just Ames, it's the new online hub for conducting business with TABC in hopes of making it easier and quicker to do business with us. It does launch 9/1, and the onboarding process that we're putting into place starts in August with the communications going out in July for groups 1A and 1B, and then we'll move forward from there for groups 2 through 11 over the next 12 months. Participants in each monthly group are based on your earliest expiration date. I've already talked about virtual educational events, and I also have mentioned, and I'll mention it here again, we defined critical data in Versa, our old system, that's about 75 data fields that will be moved over into Ames, and that's all that we're moving. So you may have to supply new information when you're applying for a renewal, especially for an original. So be aware of any checklists that pop up there or any notifications that you get. Again, the dedicated support team, it will go into place in July and it will run through at least July of 2022. Email again is stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov. Phone support will be posted on the website once we have that number in place. And TABC website will house resources, FAQs, and a video library when it's available. Again, at tabc.texas.gov/2021. And I am going to take a breath here and get logged in so I can see questions, and we will start with that process. Let me know when you're ready. Okay.
Okay. What happens to pending applications prior to the transition? If they're in progress, what happens for the transition for those?
Okay. For anyone that couldn't hear the question, what happens to the pending applications that are in place prior to September 1 and the switch over to Ames? So that means one of two things. One, an original that was accepted prior to July 31st, or a renewal that came in all the way up to August 31. Those will be worked to their completion in the old system because we have to work with the old licensing structure and the old fees. And we will work those until they're complete. And then we will help you move over into Ames and set up an account in there so that you can then start monitoring your account in Ames afterwards. But we will work it to its completion as needed.
Okay. The next question is, what will be the AIMS support team, I guess, communication channels? Will it just be emails or email and phone?
So the dedicated support team will communicate with you, obviously by email or phone, depending on how you choose to contact the team. And then if you need a call back from a subject matter expert, they will contact you either by phone or email, depending on how you request it. It will be during normal business hours, so please keep that in mind. If you're working in AIMS in the evening and you want to send us an email, please do. We will certainly start working those as soon as someone gets in and starts working the what we call our Teams channel. When they start working that information, they may, however, refer you to an FAQ on the website. And that is because a lot of the questions that maybe we get are already answered. So they may start referring you there as well as answering your question.
Okay. I think we had a follow-on to one of those. Hold on one second.
Okay.
The follow-on to that question was, how long does it take to get your new profile set up if you are new?
Good question. I'm going to let Laurie answer that question. I don't think we have timed it exactly, but it's no more cumbersome than creating an account like for, I guess for like a bank. When you set up your account with a bank, you enter some specified criteria that they validate against. So we don't have an exact time, but it's pretty simple.
Okay. I would say plan on 10 or 15 minutes just to get the basics in. And then from there, especially if you're new, right, then the time it will take will be on the actual application that you'll be working through. We have a needs analysis wizard that you can spend some time in as well.
Another question is about if they don't have current emails on file, if they're not up to date, will we be sending out communications via mail or how will we handle those?
So as we are sending out communications each month with the industry briefings, and we also send out the onboarding information, we can certainly encourage you to send that to us. I encourage you to send it if you have a new email address or if you've not ever had one on file with us. Please send it to stakeholder@tabc.texas.gov. That will help us start organizing that information, because we will be using those email addresses to send out the onboarding invitations. So I suggest you communicate with us, and then we also will be, if we get a bounce email, we'll be contacting you in other forms through messaging, possibly just picking up the phone and calling you, whatever happens to work best for your situation. But if you can send it to us, please do.
For renewals that are submitted in August or July for expiring permits, if they're processed and completed either before or after, will they still get permits sent to them, or will they need to log into AIMS to get their permit?
That's a great question. I'm going to confirm what I'm about to tell you, but I am going to say for sure you will be able to log into AIMS and print it, but we may still be mailing them. Probably I'm getting confirmation from Laurie. We will be mailing them as well. But if something happens to it, you can certainly reprint it once you're in AIMS.
Okay.
There was a question a little bit earlier. Can licensing services join the earliest onboarding groups?
So licensing services can listen to and attend a virtual event. Please understand the owner of the account has to be the one to set up the AIMS account. They have to go into user management and assign you access as a licensing service before you can then go in and see it. But yes, we definitely will make sure that you can attend, because obviously if you're a licensing service, you need to know how to use AIMS, and we will make sure that we are helpful to you in that way.
Will there be training for city or county offices to learn the new process for certifying new applications, since there will no longer be the L-on packet for them to sign?
So let me say one thing and then I'll hand it over to you. certification process is, as of September 1, is still outside of Ames as far as the actual process. And I'm going to let Laurie speak to the details of that.
So yes, while there is no longer going to be a L-on or L-off packet, there will be a downloadable file or document, if you will, with all the pertinent information that the cities and counties need. And then the certificates look very similar to what they're currently accustomed to seeing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Will licensees be able to submit breaches of the peace through the Ames?
Yes, and the licensees can do it, and public, or just licensees?
Breaches of the peace are from licensees
Okay.
directly.
Sorry, breaches of peace, yeah. So yes, you will be able to do that on the portal landing page, I believe is how you start that process.
Sorry. As a distributor, will you be able to check customer licenses? If so, will this be in the Ames system?
I'll take that one.
Laurie's going to take that one. Okay.
So we do know that the distributors need that ability, and I know currently it is on the public website to check that. For Ames, I don't believe that that's a phase 1 functionality that will be available, but it is, it'll still check it through the public website for now.
And we're working through that to see how we can be helpful to you on it. We want to get the system up and running, but it may be that you have to run parallel numbers for a while. Everyone will have a new number as soon as they have their account set up in Ames. That number has already been assigned for each license, but pulling that information and making it available, we're talking through the best way to do that for you. What's next?
Under Ames, once an account is set up for a new license or reporting a change in existing license, how will additional officers, managers, or members be able to fill out their personal history sheets? Will they have to create their own login in order to maintain privacy and confidentiality? So I will take that question. So yes, the officers will be able to create their own account, and they can log into a application that's already been started, and then they can enter their information where needed. But essentially, all of the people that are seeing the same application will see the same information. So even if you put your information in and you save it and you close it, if somebody else logs in that's an officer, they should be able to see that information as well. Just want to throw that out there for awareness.
Okay. What about same officer with different entities? Is it set up by social security numbers like the current renewal system?
I'm gonna take a shot in the dark
Okay.
on what's being
I'm going
asked.
to let you. Okay.
On what's being asked here. So yes, when you, I'm assuming you're talking about the onboarding portion. So when you come in to Ames and you claim your business, the requirements for claim your business, you will be required to enter an officer's information. And so if you're the first person, you enter the correct information, your work item will get submitted to someone on the TABC staff. We will approve it, and then you will have access to your account. If you have more than one officer that needs to view the application or view your licenses, you can delegate that user as an authorized person, or a prime user is what we were calling it in Ames, to view your current licenses.
Okay, and if they're an officer for two different companies?
Yeah, there is another question below about that. So
Okay.
if you have two separate entities, you will have to submit a claim business work item for both of your entities. So however many number of entities that you have to submit that number of claim business work items to see all of your licenses.
And when they log in under that ID, they'll be able to see their multiple.
Correct. You'll be able to
businesses.
toggle between your entities. Yes.
Okay. It looks like we have a couple questions regarding the state fair. My license expires March 2022. I need temp permits for State Fair of Texas. Who should I contact? The follow-up for that was, what about the onslaught of applications for temporary permits for the state fair?
So as I mentioned earlier, we are not in any way trying to stop business from occurring. So if you have a need prior to your expiration date, in this scenario, March of 22, if you have, I think it's in October when the state fair is, if you have a need for that ahead of time, please contact the dedicated support team and make sure that we get you onboarded ahead of time so that you can then file for your temporary events at the appropriate time so that we do not delay you in being able to do business.
Okay. Will there be specific file requirements for the excise tax reports submitted through Ames?
So the answer is yes.
Yes.
It's CSV file is what you will be uploading. And that way you can do multiple lines of reporting within that document. But that is what you need to upload. And one thing I want to mention tied to that, along with any application payments, everything can be paid online. We are tied in with texas.gov. That is the same system where if you renew your driver's license or your car registration, it all goes through texas.gov. It is a secure site and your information is not stored on our servers. It moves on through texas.gov to the bank, and I don't think it's stored anywhere throughout the entire process, but that is the payment process.
Yes. And just to add on there, in addition to the CSV file, you can also submit it via like a web form. So you can submit the data
Yes.
Just straight into the web form if you don't want to create a CSV.
Sorry about that. We do have that, especially for the more simple reports, smaller reports. You can definitely use the web form and pay it online as well with that.
Will we work with specific, I guess, people within the system? Currently, we have a contact person for their applications. They currently correspond with one person. I'll take that one. So in the AIM system, whoever submits the application, obviously we know who submitted it. We will, if we need additional information, we will send requests for information, and we're calling RFIs to that individual. But whoever is also listed as a contact on that entity, so if you have a few other people that are prime users, they will also get the notifications as well.
So if you're used to working with a certain licensing specialist, we will have work queues. So when the applications come in, those work queues will be managed by supervisors in licensing, and they will determine, you know, who gets which application and how those are queued for each person. So I can't speak for licensing, so I don't know if they will continue with certain people working with certain entities. That's up to licensing, but they will have work queues for each person so that the workflow will be maintained in a balanced way.
Okay. What mission critical data is being moved, and what will be mission critical data moving forward in the new system?
So mission critical data is a term that we came up with to avoid having to move tons and tons of data that is sitting in Versa. We are talking about the name of your business, the trade name, if we have it on file, your FEIN, your officer's names, your officer information, license numbers, the license type, obviously each license that is there, anything that is on your profile, and then specific to your license, permits or certificates that are active, those will be coming over. But outside of that, maybe any additional information that you might have provided at any given time for older applications will not be moved over. And we're not moving over any of the actual paper documents as well. Those will stay in a legacy system for a short amount of time. So did I get that one right, Lori? Okay.
Yes. Since email addresses are not case sensitive, so if we enter an email in lowercase or uppercase, will it work both ways in the system? That's a great question.
That's a great question. We will find out from Gov2Biz, our vendor, and then we will get back with you probably on an FAQ on the website to find out. I would be surprised if it makes a difference, but we will certainly make sure that we determine that for you so that you get a good answer.
So a public citizen can not attend a training unless they receive an invitation from a permit holder?
I would say that would probably be preferable. If you have a link to the event and you want to attend it, you're certainly welcome. It is an open meeting. We expect 5,000 to 6,000 in the first two groups each, but we have the capability, because we're working with Microsoft Teams, to have up to 10,000. That's why we're not using any other product. So if you want to join us at open meeting, we're happy to have you.
Will annual compliance reports go through AIMS or remain under the current mobile apps?
Right now, we have not developed the technology within AIMS to handle compliance reporting or cash credit law. Both of those will continue as is throughout the next fiscal year, most likely. Those are some of our top priorities, probably top 2 or 3 priorities right there. And we'll be working on those and testing them and then rolling them out when they're ready. And then we'll be turning off the old ones. Again, we're hoping to have those done within fiscal year 22, which is coming up.
And then this is kind of a topic, I think we have a couple questions on this one. Will an applicant be required to get paperwork from TABC before getting local certifications or publication certifications?
I'm going to let you take that one. I assume they're talking about the forms.
Yeah, and then here's the other one that's kind of connected to it. So if there will no longer be the L-on or L-off forms, will the form be released in advance in August? So those certifications may be obtained while you are not accepting applications that month, then be ready to submit in September. If not, can we use the current L-on or L-off forms to get local certs in August and then not allow those to be accepted in September? Otherwise, nothing can be done in August in advance of the September rollout.
Right. So I do know the answer to the last part of that question. You can use the existing forms. You will just have to upload them into AIMS when you're prompted to upload those certificates. I do not know if licensing is going to make the new forms available prior to September 1 or not.
I don't know the answer to that question.
We'll have to find that out, but I do know we had a question in a previous meeting asking about using the older forms and then coming into the AIMS system, and you can do that for those that are submitting before you can get online. So yes, you can use those.
And to circle back on the question that I can, I guess, help answer about getting required paperwork from us first. I'm not sure if that was in the context of kind of when we're not in, or when they're in this transition or not, but if you're just submitting a new application after September, you'd go in and enter your information in the system and download the form. But if you're talking about not wanting to go into the system and go get your county, city, or certs first, I think we'd have to follow up with licensing to understand if they're going to make those forms available.
Yes. But for sure, you can use the existing forms up until the end of August 31.
Is the cash law reporting system moving to AIMS?
So that I blended in with the compliance reporting app question. We are going to be redoing cash credit law, but for now, it is going to continue working as is. We are tying the old system and the new system data together to keep it going for you as is, but we do plan on updating that and making sure it's available to you once it's tested and ready to go into production.
So there are quite a few questions around AIMS accounts and I guess linking to their entities. So I can read them all and then we can just kind of answer.
Can you? Okay.
It's hard to kind of generalize because they're all kind of one-off.
Sure.
How many users can be added to each account? And I believe that it's a capped number. It's not like 10 or 12, but it's a high number. I don't know the specific maximum, but it is quite a a large number.
So we'll get that as an FAQ and post it on the website.
How will each manager of the entity will each manager of the entity have to log in to add the licensing service to their profile? So I think I can answer that question. The account users are linked to an entity. So if I claim my business for my entity and I only have one, and I want my licensing service to see my entity, I would invite them to my one entity that I have. But if I have 10 entities that I go log in and claim business for, I would have to invite that licensing service for each business entity, so the licensing service could see all of my entities.
And just to clarify, Lori, so if I'm a licensing service and I log in and I have 20 entities that are my clients, I will see all 20 of them, correct?
Yes, you will see them upon login, and it'll ask you which entity you want to look at or want to do business with when you're logging in. How will new applications be started in AIMS if an officer of the applicant is not determined yet? So I think that, and I'll take this one, but I think that can go in a few different ways. So if you are an existing business, maybe that's kind of the caveat. If you are logging in and you're selecting one of your current business entities, if you're in one of your current business entities, you will have to navigate to an area which indicates you want to create a new business entity. And when you go through that avenue, you will be asked the questions for that new business entity. And then you can set up your application for your new license. So if you have new people on that entity that want access to the new entity you just created, you would have to invite them to come be a part of that entity in AIMS. I'm hoping that's answering their question.
How will new applications be started in AIMS if an officer of the application is not yet determined?
Are they able to start the application, but they just have, it will be incomplete until they have that information entered?
We started in AIMS, but an officer of the applicant is not determined. Yes, you can start an application. Really, the key piece for me is the entity that's applying for that application. That's the key piece that we need to know, and the system's going to require you to know before you start your new application. So if you know your entity, but maybe you have an officer change, I'm trying to kind of put it in a context. If you have a new officer coming on board, you would need to complete a change of officers transaction first, and then apply for your new application with the updated information. I'm trying to.
But if you're a completely new entity, you would need all that information up front to really get the ball rolling on your original application, because we require officer information up front.
Correct. So you would start your new application and put in the applicable information, right, about what license type, your location, that type of thing. But when you get to the entity portion, you can save and then come back to it whenever you have the information.
Which is a great point. Just to add on, the system does save your information. Obviously, I think you have to hit save, but on each screen. So as you make progress, if you do have to go back and wait on officer information, or if you run out of time to work on it at that particular point in time, you click save, and then when you come back into AIMS, you'll be able to pick up where you left off.
And I want to skip down to this other question because it's kind of related. So during onboarding, when an owner logs in and enters their personal information, will all the permits that they are associated with come up, or did you say that we will be responsible for entering an identifier for each permit? I'll take that one. So when you log in, you create your AIMS account, and then you submit a claim business. When you submit your claim business work item, you will be asked to enter things like your FEIN, your license number, and then your officer information. But you're only doing that for each entity that you have license associated with. So if my entity has 10 licenses, I'm only entering one license number. If I have 20 entities, then I'm doing 20 claim business work items. So there's a little bit of segregation between entities and the licenses associated to those entities.
Right. And again, that license number that you'll be entering is your new license number, and that's what we are working through on how best to get that information to you so that you have your legacy number and you know what is tied to it as the new number. We've just got to work through the best way to provide that information to you. But just to repeat what Lori said, an entity with multiple licenses, you tie it to one license. When it's approved, everything shows up. But if you're entering for multiple entities, you've got to go into each and enter and claim that business for each entity. So it depends on if you have multiple licenses versus multiple entities. So it gets a little bit confusing there.
Currently, depending on the corporate structure, TABC stops obtaining owner information above 3 levels in the corporate chain of control. Will the current disclosure levels be the same or changing?
So is that defined yet? So that is still in progress. And we are working through that with licensing and management. So that will be a question that we'll post on the FAQ at a later time after this meeting.
What's the earliest we can apply for the state fair? It starts September 24th.
So I was wrong. I thought it was in October. My apologies. The earliest you can come on board, we are going live September 1st. I suggest that you not do it that day just because it may be a little bit chaotic, but I would suggest you do it as early as you can that first week in September to make sure that you get everything in time. So again, so you can do your business the way you need to do your business. But just that first week in September, maybe possibly the second week at the latest.
If corrections need to be made, I'm assuming on application, will you still file a correction affidavit?
No.
The answer is no.
No. So you can make corrections to your application as long as it's pending. And then if there is a mistake, you'll be notified by licensing through the dashboard and also through email, letting you know what steps you need to take. But because you can make corrections throughout the process while you're filling it out in its pending state, you don't have to do anything there, but it's after it becomes.
Just clarifying, when it's pending, it's in TABC's side.
I'm sorry, when it's on your side,
Yes.
when it's pending in your side, not pending with us. So if it's just a saved draft for you, you can make changes as you need to. Once it becomes pending with TABC, then you will be notified for corrections or additional information that's needed.
Correct. And that will be in the form of the RFIs that we were speaking about earlier.
Request for information
yes.
for the RFI.
Will remittance payments be done online, similar to presently handling renewals online? Will fees be able to be paid by ACH from an account of a licensing service?
So yes, you can make, we encourage you to make payments online through, again, texas.gov is our entity for handling those payments. And I believe we can take credit cards, debit cards, ACH, and EFTs, or just ACH? ACH.
Okay. Will you continue to maintain old files from the previous system for FOIA purposes?
So we will maintain documentation for a while. We are going through all of our systems and making sure that we have what we need, but we don't save what we don't need. That's kind of hard to
We
say.
follow state retention
Yeah.
schedule.
Definitely, we follow that state retention schedules, and we will be working on that in the background. I am not going to even try to speak to FOIA because I don't know what it is. So that will be a question we will get back to you on the FAQ.
In Ames, will you be able to access all the business information for LLC that the TABC has for each permit holding an entity that I have been given? I think in Ames, will you be able to access all the business information for LLC that the TABC has for each permit holding entity that I have been given
That have been given access
to? Okay. Yes, when you log in and you've claimed your business and we've approved your claimed business work item, you will link to your business entity and you'll be able to view your business entity information. So whoever's the primary contact, your officers, you'll be able to see that information through your account.
And if you're a licensing service and you've been given access, you will be able to see exactly what the business owner can see as well. We are not, at this point in time, we do not have roles defined in the system that prohibit you from seeing everything within that account. So please keep that in mind when you are assigning access to different users. They can see, at this point in time anyway, they can see everything in that account.
Will pending applications submitted prior to July 31st be issued before September 1?
That is our goal, but it certainly depends on the individual application and what licensing needs to work through that. We can promise you it will be worked and it will be worked as efficiently as possible, but that will certainly fall on licensing and not IT for the complete answer to that. But the goal is to get them done as quickly as possible.
Moving forward in the new system, who will be required to submit a personal history sheet or information on how many levels of ownership will be required? So I think that goes back to another question.
That is still being worked through on the levels that have to be collected in the system, and that will be something that we'll just post an answer to on the FAQ when all the appropriate people have made that decision, and we can then publish it for you.
Will the onboarding team, I'm assuming support team, be the same team that helps upload new applicants? If so, who takes priority?
So we are going to do our best to work the support team from as the requests come in, that we will start helping you. Please know that those 25 people are kind of like a triage for you to answer questions, to get you moving along as quickly as they possibly can. If you're stuck on some specific question, but also behind that team of 25 dedicated people is the entire licensing department, right? So, or if you have questions again about rules or code, licensing structure, fees, etc., we'll farm those questions out to the right people so that we are getting you your answers as quickly as we can. Again, the support team is more like a triage to help you keep moving through the process, or if you have a quick question, but we will certainly expand that base of people as quickly as we need to and as wide as we need to make sure that you get the answers that you need as they come into us.
The next one, how long will you accept the old forms? Some applicants get tied up in the city or county.
So we will accept the old forms through July 31st, 2021, and then new forms starting September 1st.
I think just in my mind, maybe that's from the context of like the city county certs, like if they're during the month of August.
Okay.
Where we're not accepting originals.
Okay, so going back to the answer we gave earlier, if you're referring to the certifications, licensing has said that they will accept the old forms into Ames, where they have to. But if you're applying and starting the process in Ames, just download the new forms and take those to the city. But if you've started it ahead of time, you can upload the current forms.
I think there's a few more questions around account access. So if a licensing service were to use a single login for all of our clients, would more than one person be able to log in at the same time? I'm assuming using that same account. That's a great question.
We'll have to get back with you on that. I do not know if we allow, if we do concurrent or named. I think it's named access. So I think the licensing service, if you have multiple people, I believe those people will have to be, but I'm going to confirm this, but I believe each person will need to be named as a user on each entity. And then they will be able to use their own login to access that same information that the licensing service is using throughout. But I am almost positive it's a named, for security reasons, it's a named subscriber base or user base, not a concurrent.
So another question further down about that is once multiple persons have access, whether multiple officers or licensing firms in Ames, how can access be terminated? Does everyone with access have ability to terminate access? If an officer is removed from the permittee, will that person be automatically removed as a user? So I'll take that one.
Okay.
For access termination, so if there's two roles really right now. There's prime and there's delegated. Prime means you have unlimited access to everything. Delegated means you don't have access to everything. So you
To
can't,
admin rights.
it's like an admin right.
rights.
Absolutely. So if you are removing, or there's somebody coming off of your business entity and they have an account, it would be on you to remove the responsibility for that person. So
As a prime.
as a prime. So anybody with prime is basically an admin of the entity. And so they have the ability to terminate other people's access. Is one manager's personal history sheet available to all managers and users of that entity? I don't believe so, but I need to confirm. We need to follow up with that one.
We'll add all questions related to the personal histories. We will add that to an FAQ when we have confirmed with our vendor, as well as any internal procedures or processes that are tied to it, policies, and then we'll post a question and answer for you on the FAQ on the website.
What about a service provider bringing a new applicant into Ames? So there's no existing entities or licenses. Does the service provider have the ability to create the Ames account on behalf of the new applicant? So part of the process when you're creating a new application is it asks you basically, are you the applicant? Are you the owner? I guess is kind of a better way to say it. There's 3 questions, and if you answer those questions in a certain way, if you're a service provider, you should not be able to come in and create that first account. The best approach that we're trying to limit here in Ames is where the actual business owners are the people who create that first account and then give the access to another licensing service or service provider, as indicated here in the question.
And Lori, just help me here. If I go, okay, new owner, I need you to go in and do this, right? And that you've hired me to help you with it. The new owner goes in, does the basic setup, correct? And then all they have to do is say user management, assign it to the licensing service, to the named person that they want. And then the licensing service can pick it up from there and do the application for them in the system.
Correct. Until you get to the signature, and when you do the final step in the application of the signature, that has to be done by an officer.
They will have to be logged in as themselves.
That's correct.
To go in to do that.
That's correct.
So there's a couple of different touch points for the owners, and then the licensing service can step in after the account is set up, but certainly have to hold off. It'd be like taking a paper form to someone and having them sign it. You will have to have them log in and do the signing signature process, and then move forward from there, where you can continue doing the coverage for them.
There's a very specific question using companies B, C, and A. I think we need to use that one for a follow-up.
Well, yes, if you don't mind something that detailed, because we are a little bit over time. I certainly want to stay here as long as we need to answer questions, but if they are more detailed, we will definitely post them again to the FAQs on, and I haven't said it in a while, tabc.texas.gov/2021 is a great way to go and start clicking on the Ames or technology links to get to different resources that you need.
Has TABC determined the average amount of time it will take an applicant for an average original retailer application to submit their application in the new system?
We started user acceptance testing yesterday, and so we are now working through all of those points, but we do not have any timed efforts at this point. We are just now starting through it. Certainly something, it's a metric that we are very definitely interested in, on how long, does it take you to fill something out online? And then of course, other metrics for renewals, and then also processing time on our side are all metrics that we'll be looking at over time.
So for clarification, because I guess they couldn't hear, if I'm an officer of 20 entities, each holding a separate permit, can I claim each separate entity when I onboard for one entity, or do I need to onboard for each entity as the respective permit expiration month occurs?
So I'll go back over. It's if you have one entity with multiple licenses, you claim a business one time. Think of claiming your business as claiming the entity. So if you have multiple entities, then you have to do a claim your business process for each entity. If you have multiple licenses within an entity, you claim that entity, and all licenses related to that entity are done. But if you have multiple entities, then you do multiple claims.
Do we need publishers' affidavits? The answer is yes. That's still part of the application process. And so that's part of the city and county CER. It's a pre-populated item that you can take.
So when she says a pre-populated item, so once you filled in information into the AIM system, and then when you get ready to print the certifications, that will be pre-populated with the information that you've already provided, so that you're not downloading a blank form and having to start over. The information that you give us populates onto that certification and or whatever other form that you're downloading and have to take to the locals. So we are trying to be very helpful from that perspective. So know that you're not downloading a blank form. We will pre-populate it with the information that you have entered.
Will we still have 4-day picnic licenses for the duration of the fair, or can we roll it into one of each location instead of 6?
I'm going to say that we will get back to you. That is a very specific licensing question, and we will get an answer for you and post it to the FAQs on the website to make sure that we give you the correct answer.
There's another question about the temps for the state fair as well, in order like the date when we can submit it by to avoid expedited fees. We'll circle back with that.
We'll do an FAQ section on that particular topic and grab all of these questions and make sure that we get all of them answered appropriately for you, and we'll get those on the website as soon as we can.
What will happen to, I guess, permits in vol suspense? Will they have an account? So yes, the answer is yes to that. Permits that are in the voluntary suspended status are considered still active, so they will be a part of the entity as well. Will there only be one prime user per permittee, or can multiple prime users exist? Multiple prime users can exist per entity.
We'll post the maximum number of users. We do not know that offhand. We will post that. And if there's a maximum on Prime or by itself, we'll let you know that. But as of right now, we do know you can do multiple, and I don't think there's a max on that. There's just a max overall of how many, but it's a pretty high number.
Will signatures no longer be certified by a notary?
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah. For the application itself.
Okay, so if you didn't hear that, for the application itself, a notary is not required. You will have different attestations that are presented on the screen that you agree to, and that helps you move through the process. And then you will, and Lori, when they sign the document, it's a check mark, correct? They're not being routed a document.
That's correct. It's a confirmation checkbox on a few items, and then entering their name.
By typing it.
By typing their name, yes.
So it's definitely an electronic process from this point forward. Okay.
So an officer or manager will not only have to set up an account, but then they will they will be the only person to sign. An example, an officer of HEB can set up and then sign for submission. So the answer is yes.
Yes.
Will there be history stored, such as past temporary permits purchased? The answer is yes. There is a history feature inside of the Ames account for each user. I don't know offhand how far it goes back. I can find out that information, but yes, there is a history feature. Will the new Ames application be based on the same information needed on the current forms? For instance, will the same PHS information be the same in the Ames system?
Yes. So what we did, we went through all of the forms and all of the processes and made sure that they were as streamlined as possible. And then we took the forms and put them more into an electronic web form process, just to help you walk through the situation of, whichever one that you're working with, PHS in this example. But I don't believe there was any drastic changes as far as the actual information that is being collected. It's just different in how you provide that information to us, again, because of the electronic process.
Yeah, and there's another question that's very similar or same topic. Is each individual required to complete a PHS, required to log in separately to complete the PHS? The answer is no.
Okay.
If you have the information for the person, so if you're the person submitting the application and you have all the pertinent information, you can enter it all at one time. But if you don't, and that person prefers to log in to enter their information, they can do so.
Okay. So it's a either or, both are acceptable is kind of the bottom line on that one.
That's correct. I have a very specific one about what happens during bankruptcy when a trustee is appointed and the trustee doesn't have access to Ames, and the existing officers don't have access or any rights. We'll have to follow up on that one.
Okay. Correct me if I'm wrong. TABC does have proxy rights. So we can see your account and help you with that account. But we do, because this is a very specific question, we want to make sure that we get you a very specific answer that is correct. But we do have proxy rights. That way we can see, for instance, if you're going through an application and you're stuck somewhere, one of the licensed specialists can log in and see what you're seeing and help you on the way through.
If you claim a business for multiple or different permit holding entities, will all of these be onboarded at the same time or at the earliest renewal date?
It will be, say that again, for each, like they have multiple licenses.
If they have multiple entities where the licenses there's multiple licenses with separate renewal dates, will they all be onboarded at the?
They will all be onboarded at the same time. They will not be renewed except 30 days prior to that renewal. So yes, you will see, again, one entity, multiple licenses. You come in, claim your business, you will see all of the licenses tied to that account. But from there, you will then have to come in. So if you have 10 that renew in October and you're within that 30-day window, you can do all 10 in one sitting, but you cannot do November's at that time. So you will see them when you onboard. You will not be able to interact with them as far as renewals until they're within that 30-day window.
And I think maybe just for further clarity, if your entity has a license that expires in September, let's say, but you also have 9 other entities where the licenses don't expire in September, they expire in January of 2022. Do they onboard all of their entities when they onboard the?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, we want you to, once you come in and onboard, please take care of all of your business at one time. We are not going to force you to go through this process multiple times. So yes, if you have multiple entities, then you can claim your business for each one when you come in. We're basing everything on your earliest expiration date. So large corporations that have multiple licenses and entities most likely will have a September or October renewal for expiration date for renewal. So you would do it in that earliest month and just do it one time.
Does each individual required to complete a PHS, will they be required to log in separately to complete the PHS? The answer is no, they won't be required to log in separately. They can if they want, or the person submitting the application can have the information and submit it all during the initial application.
It just depends on what information was provided to that person who's completing the process within AIMS.
What if there has been an officer change within a voluntary suspense? There are cities and counties that will not accept a document unless there is a wet signature. We'll have to follow.
That's definitely following, again, very specific questions like that that require licensing and management to speak to. We will get back to you on that FAQ page on the website.
Would you categorize the system as requiring heavy duty data entry?
I wouldn't, but
I'd say
I'm a little biased, right?
It's no more than what you're writing right now on your application.
Yeah, instead of actually doing the handwriting part onto the application or typing it in there, you'll be typing it into the system. You do go screen by screen, so it's very helpful the way the screens have been designed to help you focus on a subsection as you go along the way. And then you're able to see it in its completion at the end. Are you able to download the entire application? Yes. Right. But we do have separate screens for you, again, topical, to help you stay focused on what you're putting into the system. And again, there's a save button on each page to allow you to step away, come back, whether it be a few hours or a couple of days. And you can go back and forth with it, but it's going to be the same data you provide now. It's just typed into the system and then again saved for you.
How does a service provider or licensing service company get listed in AIMS as an option for the owner/manager to select on their entities?
So they will have to set you up as a user on their account, correct?
But I think they're talking about, if I'm not mistaken, they're talking about getting the licensing service listed as a manager or an officer on the entity.
Oh, on the actual entity.
I think that's what the question.
My apologies. So that's during the application process part?
Right. So we would have to probably circle back on that question. TTB allows consultants to complete entire applications by submitting a signed power of attorney. Why couldn't TABC do this?
So that's a operational question for the agency, and we will put that in with the questions that we're going to get answers for you and bring that back to you through the FAQ.
If an individual is already in the TABC system, will that info come forward, or does that person have to re-enter their info each time with each new permit? I'll take that one.
Okay.
So that's part of the MCDE information as a part of the entities. So if you're a current license holder and you have your current officer, that information will be in the application already. We do ask that when you do get into AIMS that you go in and confirm the information that we have listed on file for you. And if there are discrepancies, obviously raise it through the support team channels that we will be providing out. But you should not have to re-enter the information.
Right. It should be there, and your information is your information, right? It's tied to your date of birth, your social security, or your FEIN. And if you were tied to multiple entities, it's still pulling from that one customer relationship piece of data that we have in the system, because we don't want multiple versions of you. So it will definitely tie back to you as long as all of your information matches.
Does AIMS auto save as we proceed, or do we need to frequently save manually?
So it does not auto save.
It saves when you click. So like when you're in the application, you have a next button and you have a back button. When you click next, that's saving the information you just entered.
Yes.
Prior. So when you go, every time you go to next, it's saving your information.
Right. The reason I want to distinguish between that and auto save is when you type in, let's say there's 10 fields on a screen that you need to complete, and you type in 5 of them and you get called away and the system times out, or something happens with your computer and you lose access. If you have not clicked next for that one page, you will have to re-enter the data that you had started on that page. So that's why I want to make sure it distinguishes between autosave versus when you click next, then you're forcing the save to it. So yeah, fill out that one page and then click next and you're good.
Are you all working with the TAC, the TAC, and the TML so that they can provide assistance with the cities and counties? This will alter the cities and counties' procedures and processes, i.e. the cities and counties that will not accept documents without wet signatures.
So our external relations team is working with the different associations, and yes, the short answer is yes. How specifically external relations is working, and I know that executive management is working with associations as well throughout the summer, providing information and talking to them as needed and as requested. But yes, we are trying to make sure we cover our bases as widespread as we possibly can to make sure that everyone gets the message that they need to get, and that they have access when they need to have it, and that it's being communicated in the most efficient manner across the board.
Do any of your testing groups include licensing service companies? If not, is there any interest in including one?
So right now we are doing our testing internally, and we are looking at doing a very brief time in August. Just to give you the timeline, our internal testing runs through August 9th, I believe. And we have a very short window of time before we go into what I call the stabilization period. So we have a very small window that we will be able to possibly entertain that. We have not confirmed that yet because, again, UAT started yesterday. So we are in a really tight push right now just to get through everything that we have to get through to get ready for stabilization in mid-August.
How will conduct surety bond requirements be determined in the new system for renewals or for applicants for originals?
We're going to come back to that with an FAQ.
Yes.
So we'll come back on the FAQ page for that. Amy, thank you for it.
Will pages allow you to go forward even if you have not filled in all the blanks?
No, we have required fields throughout. And so if a required field is not completed, you will not be able to advance by clicking the next button.
That's all.
Okay. Thank you all. Great questions. Again, we have a team that works on all of these questions after each one of these types of meetings, that we will make sure that we get you a good, firm answer, and then we will post it on the FAQ. Again, tabc.texas.gov/2021. And be on the lookout if you are a distributor, manufacturer, brew pub, or if you're a tier 3 with a September or October expiration date as your earliest one. Be on the lookout for communication starting in July. We will send reminders, along the way, but you will be our first 2 groups for the onboarding process. Again, we will record these sessions. We have them scheduled for an hour each. Based on the questions that we're getting today, we might want to revisit that internally to see what we need to do, because we want to make sure that we are available to you to answer your questions and get you the information that you need as within a few weeks after your virtual event with us. The system will be live and you'll be coming into it. So we will do everything we can to answer your questions. And again, we'll have the dedicated support team, stakeholder at, again, it's singular, stakeholder at tabc.texas.gov, and we'll publish the phone number as well. And as always, contact us on any other questions. We're happy to discuss. Thank you all so much for your time today. Great questions. We hope this was helpful, and it will be on our TABC Talks channel, and you can view it there. I don't know how long it takes, but it will be there at some point in time. And then you also will have a download that includes all of the bullet points that I spoke to on each of our slides. Thank you again. Have a great day.